Yo guys, hello and welcome to another replay analysis with me, ViBE, brought to you by Reynor and Serral and Plasmid. Plasmid suggested I go over this, and I'm interested, dude. I'm interested. Let's see it. This is game 2 of Serral versus Reynor in the recent WCS, winter WCS that just happened. I actually didn't see this live, so I don't know what happens exactly. I have not seen this game yet. Anyways, Reynor and Serral are both, I would say, the two best Zergs from Europe right now. Serral has been the reigning god of Europe for like the last year, but Reynor is, or what did I just say? Serral has been the reigning champ of Europe for a while now, like a year, and Reynor is very good though. This kid's really, really up and coming. He's young and he's pretty fucking solid. Anyways, Serral and Reynor both going hatch first. Same exact build so far. Serral's hatchery is 3 seconds faster. Pretty minor, but it's like the same exact thing so far. We're gonna have an 18 gas, 17 pool coming down for both as well. Identical builds. I'm going to pause it really fast because I'm going to say this. I already like Serral's opener better though. And this is why. I think Reynor is insane at a lot of things. And I think Serral is insane at a lot of things. And I think they both could be compared really equally to each other in a lot of ways. In terms of micro, macro, multitasking, whatever. They're both very comparable. They're both insanely good at a lot of things. But I think Serral is the best player that I have ever seen when it comes to scouting. And I feel like already in the first minute of this game, he's continuing to prove that. Because right now, let me tell you what's happening in this game. This Overlord, right here, is Reynor's way of getting the Overlord across the map quickly. It's going to get over here and scout the potential third base faster. It's going to get over here and scout the front of the base faster. Maybe, you know, Reynor could get into the main, and if Serral took this gas, then he would be able to count it and go, okay, I have this much gas. How much gas have you mined? He could compare. That could tell a lot of things, like if he went for a really insanely fast gas for like a really early speed timing, things like that. Reynor wants to get 2 Overlords across the map quickly, so he wants to be able to scout the front and maybe scout the main with the direction of this Overlord the way it's going. But Serral, I don't know if this guy's a absolute guru or what, but he built the gas. He might literally be thinking about what I just said. He built the gas opposite. So even if the Overlord pokes in and out, he won't see the gas. So he won't know how early it happened. Because if you commit all the way to this gas, your Overlord's going to die to a queen. So it's not going to happen. But if you look at Reynor here, Serral could scout this. And the first Overlord for Serral, it might not even commit all the way up. But just know it could. Like poke in, see if the natural's there. Go up, see if the gas is there. Go back down. But I haven't said the big thing yet. I really like how Serral is moving his second Overlord down like this rather than Reynor's Overlord going to the side, because if Reynor early pools with a 12 or a 13 pool or something like that, you're going to see it as Serral now. You're going to physically see the lings coming before they get to your base. And every single second that goes by further and further, this Overlord is going to get closer to spotting it further out on the map, which gives Serral a much more proper reaction with his larva to be able to defend it properly. So he's not going to be surprised at all. However, Reynor is playing blind to the early pool possibility because he's nowhere near the rally path of lings going across the map. So he's basically going to be doing a build whether what he sees or not. And if Serral was the kind of guy who wanted to go really all in here, it could potentially put Reynor in a really hard spot because he has no idea. He would have no idea. And if he made drones at one point when he shouldn't have made drones, because he's like, oh my god, you're actually all-inning me, he could lose the game because of that. So Serral's opener, just about how he moved his units, is less risky. Also, the other thing, there's a second part about it. Because Serral sees the second Overlord, even though his Overlord's scouting like this, because Serral is now going to see the second Overlord that Reynor's allowing him to see, in a second here, right now, automatically, Serral can now go in his brain. He can go like this. I am no longer fighting against a 12 pool or a 13 pool. If you see this Overlord like this, 100% this means that the player went pool before Overlord, which not only increases the chances that it's a hatch first build, but it guarantees that you cannot be fighting someone who saved for a pool right away. So getting attacked really, really, really fast when your hatchery is still being built is already out of the question. It no longer is a factor. So Serral already knows this, but now because Serral also put his Overlord down like this, Reynor can't see it either. So Serral covered his base a little bit better with the scouting, I think, with being able to potentially see Lings moving across the map. But now it also puts Reynor in a position where he's like, where's your second Overlord at? I don't know. So now it's still open to the option for Serral to have gone for a 12 or a 13 pool is still there. Because Reynor has not seen a second Overlord out of Serral yet. So this is already a lot of information that Reynor has given away that Serral has capitalized on. Serral's Overlord movement is already a lot better than Reynor's. Serral is the god of scouting. He is so fucking good at it. Plus, the gas placement is out of vision for Reynor. So like Reynor is legit going to be blind to everything for the long, like, you know, for a little bit up until he sees, okay, you expanded. Luckily for Reynor, Serral's not doing anything aggressive. It's a completely passive game. It's a hatch first standard build. But this is risky if it were to be aggressive. It would have been risky had Serral been aggressive, but he's obviously not. So game goes on, but there's less holes in Serral's build here. It's way more effective, I would say. I like it a lot more. Alright. Now we got one drone being pulled off gas for both players. Both players getting speed. They are doing the exact same build still. Both players sending out a drone around 30 supply to go take a third. They are still doing the same build. Serral is, however, doing this build slightly faster. I feel like the only reason why this could have happened, if we were to go back and watch it again, I feel like Serral probably stacked his close patches a little bit more efficiently than Reynor did, because Serral is already ahead by like 40 minerals or so, or like 30 minerals or something. Because even if it's actually 36 minerals is how far he's ahead right now. Because even if Reynor built 2 drones right now, actually it's even more, dude. There's a fucking baneling nest already built for Serral, and he's still this much ahead. Yeah, there's been some efficiency going on here with the mineral line for Serral opposed to Reynor. Because we have a 2 supply lead. If Reynor were to build 2 drones right now, okay, he'd be caught up as well. He'd be at 31 out of 31, or 31 out of 36, just like Serral's at 31 out of 36. But he'd be at 14 minerals and 84 gas. The gas is identical, but Serral has already spent a drone and made a bane nest. So he's still 2 supply ahead, even though a drone is now gone to make this. So Serral has just been a little bit more efficient. Reynor did an extractor trick. I think I saw that too, but
Some congratulatory biddies for being on the Pylon show. You may have been on before, but I've never noticed bees.
Thank you very much, Hello Derpy. I haven't been on it before, but thank you, dude. Much love. Their builds are almost identical, but yeah, Serral has been more efficient. It's not game ending yet or anything like that, but Serral's is more efficient. Serral going for a +1 range weapon. Reynor going for a layer. Okay. So we don't have a Roach one started, nor do we have a Evo chamber started. I feel like this is going to become a Roach style versus a Muta style. Just by the looks of this. Like, just looking at it right now, that's what it seems like is going to happen. I like that both players are, you know, making it... Both players are making a round of Ling Bane to control the map and scout the map, but neither player is all-inning the map. Both players are confident enough in their micro defensively that if their opponent goes really, really, really aggressive and has like twice the army size, that with their current army, they would be able to stall and buy enough time and defend long enough to make more units, but maintain a drone lead. I really like how both these players play economically. I feel like it makes the most sense in ZVZ. This is how like the best kind of a player will play, because if they get all in, they're still active enough to scout that it's going to happen and they can prepare before they die to it. But at the same time, if their opponent all-ins and it fails, they're now just ahead so far that the game's pretty much over at that point, because the economy will never be the same. Like with, the defender like this will always have an edge at that point. I like it a lot. And neither one of them has not played like this, really. They both play like this quite often. But I really do. I think they execute it really well. That was smart bailing placement. I like Serral's confidence, though. Even though he loses his lings like that. Look at this. I really like this. I think Serral's got confidence, dude. Watch this. So good play by Reynor, right? Doing this right here. But watch the production tab for blue for Serral. That sucks for Serral, right? You're like, oh my god. I just lost a lot of my scouts. And also a lot of my lings. But he just keeps droning. He's like, I'll make one extra ling. This is basically like, I'll add one more ling because, why not? But he drones anymore, or he drones more anyways, which is a really good choice, because if he made like that many lings again, it wouldn't do anything again, and he would just be behind now in workers. But because he still droned, they're still tied.
Yeah.
It was a smart micro move by Reynor, but Serral didn't take the bait basically, and for himself, he didn't go, I need him again. You know what I mean? Like good on him to not panic. And also, good on him to not send all of his Zerglings to go scout like that. He only sent a chunk. A lot of lesser Zergs would literally send all their lings out to be like, I'm gonna go for a poke. And it'd be intelligent for me to have more lings over there, because the more lings I have over there, the more drones I might kill if I find an open expansion here. But he respected Reynor in the sense that he didn't send all of his lings, because number one, it keeps him safe for a counterattack, and number two, if something bad does happen, he doesn't lose everything. So he still has enough for himself to feel confident to where he won't die. So I like it. Intelligent. I like it. And this is indeed a Muta build versus a Roach build. Yo, they give it the sub. Nom 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 nom. So here's how this goes. Oh, Spire as well. Okay. Interesting. Here's what's happening now. This is what's happening.
Oh, yeah.
Both players know, and they realize the Spire is going down for each other, basically. They both know a Spire's on the way. Bob Go Frog, thank you for the 2-month sub, dude. They both know a Spire's on the way. But in this exact position, Reynor is the one who's ahead now, because he skipped the Roach one, he skipped an Evo. He didn't invest into either one of these buildings, and he also didn't invest in any of these upgrades. On this building so far, there has been 250 minerals and 250 gas. And on this building, there's been 100 minerals and 100 gas invested. So there's a lot of investment here. This is like, you know, think about what 350 minerals and gas can buy you, right? That's like a Spire plus almost 2 Mutas. It's a 1.5 mutas. And what it did also is it delayed the Spire. So now in a muta versus muta game, because Serral's going into that, Serral's always going to be behind. He is always going to be behind now in the upgrade department, unless he does something like get an Overseer to contaminate it, or do something like that, or maybe somehow kill the Spire. So knowing that, it makes Serral the defender now. Serral has to be the one who is defensive. And since he's still getting these upgrades, even though he's making a Spire, this actually makes me wonder if instead of going mutas, now instead if he's going to maybe go Corruptor. Because there's no reason to continue these upgrades like this hard right now if you're going to go mutas. But you can actually beat more gas investment of muta with less of a gas investment with Corruptor. Because one Corruptor is the same exact gas cost to one muta, but one Corruptor does beat one muta. The only real negative thing about it is the Corruptor can't hit air. I mean, sorry, I said it wrong. The Corruptor cannot hit a ground unit. So you have a little bit of a vulnerability to like lings or something like that if you're ever out of position with your roaches. So it's honestly, this is kind of a risky style to play, but you can totally still make it work. But I do give the edge right now to Reynor now. And I really like that Reynor's getting weapon upgrade. Because, hold on. He just saw the roaches, right? Like I'm not crazy. That just happened. He just saw roaches. Yes, he did. And he also, okay, so Reynor, this is really smart. What's Gecko? How you doing? How you doing, man? Don't worry, I'll get to Reynor as well, okay? So Reynor over here. This is really fucking smart, guys. Seeing a roach is not that big of a deal. If I'm Reynor and I see a roach, even though I saw a Spire, I might think to myself, okay, this guy might have just made like 5 roaches, and he might go into mutas now. Which would mean that maybe I want some Carapace upgrade if I'm in a muta versus muta battle, right? If you're thinking like, oh, there's only a couple roaches, but here's the big kicker, the but. If Reynor clicked on Serral's roach and goes, oh, you have a weapon upgrade, you're committed here. You're actually committing to the roaches. This is not something that you're just like, oh, I made a couple. You have had the foresight and like the time here to be like, I'm going to get upgrades on my Evo chamber for roaches, and I'm going to make roaches, even though I'm making a Spire. Reynor's reaction to that is basically saying, oh, you're not going mutas. You're either canceling that Spire, or you're going Corruptors. If he cancels the Spire, it's going to be Hydra Infestor, Hydra Corruptor, or I mean, sorry, Hydra Lurker or Hydra Infestor, something like that. If the Spire doesn't get canceled, it's going to be Roach Corruptor. So getting a weapon upgrade is way better because Corruptors get to a point where they're going to one-shot your mutas and one-shot your mutas and one-shot your mutas. They're going to have a lot of overkill. And if you upgrade your weapons, you're going to be upgrading your bounce damage to penetrate through more of the armor of the Corruptor. Not only is it going to upgrade your main weapon attack, but you're going to be bounce. You're going to want to take clump versus clump to make your bounces more effective. And this weapon upgrade is not only going to make your mutas more effective against the Corruptor because of that, but it's also now going to make mutas more effective against roaches. And you're gonna be able to actually isolate and kill roaches faster if you're ever like fighting your spore crawlers or with your zerglings or something like that. It's just gonna make everything more efficient. So I really think that this weapon upgrade is insanely smart. It's very, very intelligent, and I think he did it because he saw a weapon upgrade on a roach. Now, Serral's getting spores. You can see Reynor is not getting spores. This is pretty how it should go. Serral should be afraid of mutas attacking him right now before he's ready for it, which is why he should make spore. Reynor should be feeling like he's the one who should be containing his opponent and not allowing his opponent to... Reynor should be abusing his mobility because... Think about it like this, okay? There's 2 reasons why Reynor should be aggressive right now. Number 1, Reynor has map control. He knows he has map control because he has a faster Spire. And now also Serral is committed into roaches as well. So Reynor, with muta and map control, can take a 4th base. Plus, that's one reason. The 4th base is one huge reason. Because if he can maintain a better economy, that's huge. The second reason is a Zergling is faster than a roach. And a muta is faster than a Corruptor. So Reynor has the map control advantage of mobility. So Reynor can go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, like wherever, like try and just multi-prong, hit him at wherever he can, and do as much damage circumventing the Corruptor Roach. Because if Reynor can ever get into Serral's base and kill some drones for free, because Serral's trying to chase him around and his units are slower, well, Reynor gets a big lead that way. Even if it's like, oh, I just killed 6 drones at your gas on your third. That's 6 larvae that Serral has to replace now. And now he's probably going to rip drones off the mineral line to fix the gas. And it's going to hiccup the economy a little bit more. So it's a big deal having map control right now. And Reynor recognizes that he should have it. You mean, what do you mean, okay, I'm not going to read chat. You guys are going to fuck me up right now if I start reading your questions. I don't even know what you're talking about with Carapace. Reynor has weapon upgrade. He should have weapon upgrade. 100%. Chat, you're crazy. Serral should honestly get a Carapace upgrade, I would say, for the air unit on the Spire. And it's what he is getting. Because what this does is... what this Carapace upgrade does for his Corruptors is it reduces the bounce damage. Because this upgrade is basically +3 armor instead of +1. Because it reduces not only the initial hit of a Muta, but it also reduces each bounce by 1. And if you guys don't know this, a Muta's hit, like, the way a Muta's damage goes is it's 9, 3, 1. And the upgrades in order go like this. +1, +0.7, +0.4. So you can do the math on that. It's, you know, 9, 3, 1, 10, 3.7, 1.4, etc., 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 all the way up to 3 levels of that. But Carapace, however, goes 1, 2, 3. And a Corruptor already starts with 2 Carapace. So it goes from level 2, or like 2 armor by default to 3, 4, 5. And if it has 5 armor, it's making both bounces do 0.5 damage. Or the first... Hold on. It's... Yeah, it's like I'm not 100% sure because it is 0.1 over. The Muta's first bounce is 5.1, and the Corruptor's armor is 5. So I don't know if that 0.1 makes it still do 0.5. Basically, if a unit has more armor than the other unit does damage, always the damage unit does 0.5, which means it takes 2 hits to make it do 1 damage. But I don't know if it works the exact same way if it's 0.1 over. I don't know exactly how that works. Either way, Carapace is huge. It's a big deal. You definitely want Carapace. It makes the Muta do way less damage to the Corruptor. And you're going to have overkill anyways on the Corruptor. Your Corruptors are going to be one-shotting Mutas as it is once you have like 13 of them or so. Like, they're just going to be owning the Mutas, no problem. And I like the Queens too. This helps buy time for the Corruptors to get out. Because you can see that Serral put a little bit more of an emphasis on... or he really needed to have more of an emphasis on anti-air before the Mutas got there, because he might have taken more damage that way. I also really like how Serral still has Banelings defensively here. For now. He probably won't have them later on. But for now he does. Excuse me. So now in this game, this is literally Reynor. It's up to this. He's gonna dictate the pace of the game. I'm gonna pause it really fast and just talk about it and why that is the way it is. If Serral is allowed to defend his base and expand just like Reynor is, and make a maxed army, Serral would have the advantage. If they both can max out, Serral's army is probably better. But the ability that Serral has right now, or sorry, the ability that Reynor has right now is to break down Serral before he can get there. Now, neither player has to stay to this composition the whole game, right? Both players can transition to something else. It's totally viable. It's totally realistic. But definitely 100%, the in-game max of Muta Ling is going to be substantially weaker than the in-game max of what Corruptor Roach could become, especially if there's some Banelings involved. Because if there's like 30 Mutas versus like 25 Corruptor with Carapace upgrades will shit on 30 Muta. And then if it's like 60 supply of Zergling versus like 30 to 40 supply of Roaches, plus like maybe 6 Banelings, Roaches with upgrades once again will also win. It's going to be very, very hard for the Mutaling to really get anything done there if you just straight up fight the army. So what you really want to do is you want to just get on top of the base as much as you can. Reynor should be avoiding fights unless it's very clear that he's going to overwhelm it. I would say this fight is if these queens were more isolated, that Reynor should take this fight. But since these queens are not really isolated and there's a lot of Roaches here, I do not think Reynor should take this fight because he's going to lose more than it's worth. Serral's doing a good job of recognizing his position and keeping himself safe. But Reynor definitely needs to be very active as much as he can to try to do stuff. Even here, man, Serral's so good. He even has a Bane ready to go for like, if this plate's covered for this counterattack, this place is covered for this attack. But then if Reynor were to just like run his Lings up the middle, there's a large chunk of Lings that would die to a Bane. He's very very good at defending. But yeah, Reynor's looking for damage here. That's what his goal is. He does not want to fight the army. He wants to fight the economy. Slow Serral down. Because if it can get to a point where, let's say, Reynor has 5 bases and Serral only has 3, because Reynor kept him on 3 for that long, then Serral would then Reynor could actually be like, okay, well now, even though this fight looks a little inefficient for me, I'll still take it. Because if I trade 20% inefficiently, but I remax and you can't, whatever, it's still fine. That was really good. That was a good move. Serral recognizing that the queens are still out of position, and even the corruptors are not in position either, and coming down here now with the mutas. Not only did he get a nice snipe on the 4th base once again, just making it cancel, but he also just killed some drones and overwhelmed the spores here. And things like this are what Reynor needs to do. Serral's definitely kind of like, he's going to be starving for an economy here pretty soon if it keeps going kind of at this rate. And Reynor has like not a care in the world right now across the map. He's just mining happily the entire time. So if you look at the income, you can see it's definitely in Reynor's advantage. But Reynor's army is more inefficient like we just said. So as long as Reynor can keep this up, he will definitely take the lead further and further and further and could eventually take the game. He just needs to not overcommit to a bad fight. He needs to recognize it's good or bad. And the only reason why he's taking this fight right now is because the queens are out of position. The second the queens get here, he should leave. Which is what he does. They're both playing really well, dude. They're both like playing pretty textbook solid as fuck. Which is what you'd expect, right? These guys are both like the 2 best players in Europe. We're gonna see the same thing again. Okay, never mind. The Spore Crawler was enough to scare him off, and I don't disagree with that. The Spore Crawler is doing a shitload of DPS. I think that might have been a little bit of a missed opportunity there, though, because the corruptor count is not insane, and if like let's say these Lings and the mutas initially, because if you look at this really fast, watch when he engages. The Roaches back up, and the Spore is exposed for a second. That was a good focus on the Baneling. You know, okay, I take it back. This Baneling changes everything. If that Baneling was not there, his first focus fire could have been on the Spore, and this Spore could have died in about 2 seconds, or 3 seconds. But if he doesn't kill this Baneling becomes a serious problem. It would take too long if you only split off a few Lings to kill it, or if you sent a lot of your Lings to kill it, you would lose way too many Lings for this to be worth it. So this Baneling needs to die, and now this has created a situation where the Spore Crawler is no longer, like, the Spore Crawler is now going to be covered by corruptors throughout the process. And yeah, 100% he should back up here. That Baneling was annoying. The Banelings honestly are creating a big problem for Reynor to really take a good engage here. And now that has actually like successfully secured a 3rd base for Serral. Okay. So that sucked for Serral right there. Best thing that could have happened would have been if, right here, if Serral sees this, right... Coming up in just a second. Right now. If Serral sees this right now and reacts in a way where he pulls like a queen, for instance, or this roach walking through the door, puts it on hold position right now, then this is not a problem at all. This is the kind of shit you have to do to defend exactly perfect. But he did make a little bit of a mistake. I don't think he even was paying attention to it, right? Or he was. He was just like probably getting his stuff in position for a second. But he let a roach walk through the door, or didn't have anything. Like, he didn't, as a first priority, he didn't get something in the door ready to go to defend it. If this door is blocked, and he has a Baneling here, and the Zerglings kind of just run in and stuff up against it, and the Baneling blows up a big-ass chunk of these Lings, this would then be an amazing defense for Serral. This is kind of a risk for Reynor. 100% this is risky, because he's doing this without knowing if the door is open or not. But it paid off because the door ended up being open, and he got in. Because if he loses these Lings, it's not like the game is over, but he loses the ability to control the map for like as much. And every time something like this happens where a lot of these Lings die, it would in fact make Serral feel way more confident about defending his base properly. Being able to actually saturate this base and not have so much pressure at this exact moment in time. But to be fair, I will say, taking a risk like this on... like, you know, this could have been defended better by Serral. And it would have been great if it was, because it would give Serral time to prepare his fourth base a little bit easier. But on Reynor's end, to be fair, he is maxed, and he is also still mining, and he has a healthy economy still over Serral. So taking a gamble like this really doesn't really have too many negative side effects for Reynor, other than the fact that if it fails miserably, you give him a little bit of breathing room to set up a new base. But even if Serral sets this base up, Reynor's still ahead because he already has a 5th done. So I don't really mind this risk. It's not really like he's gambling the game. This is just like if you defend it, you're going to be in a little bit of a better spot than you were before. If you don't defend it, I'm going to be in an even better spot than I'm already in now, even though I'm already in a pretty good spot. So this is totally fine. I agree with what Reynor did here. And it ended up being really juicy because he got in. Kills a queen. Kills a second queen. Probably kills a few drones here in a second. Pulls the army out of position, and that's huge because it gets this base killed now. And some drones die. 8 drones die. That honestly was kind of like play of the game right there. It ended up being something that could have been defended. It could have been defended. But that kind of just became play of the game. Because that just once again put Serral back down. It pulled him out of position enough to put him back down to a 3-base setup. And now it's a 3-base Zerg versus a 5-base Zerg, which is exactly what you need to do if you're going for the Muta style. This now means that, let's say 20 Corruptor fight 20 Muta. And all the Mutas die. Let's just pretend all the Mutas die in that trade. And 7 Corruptors are still alive after the fight's over, which is a very realistic way that fight could go. Corruptor beats Muta if it's equal numbers. But if that happened, based off the economies both of these players have, if Serral still had 7 Corruptors left, and let's say he could afford to remake 4, and now he's got 11. And Serral's like, well, I have enough to remake 20 Mutas again. And now suddenly it's 20 Mutas once again versus now 11 Corruptor. And some of those Corruptors are also orange or yellow or red, because they were just beaten up in the last fight. That could totally happen, and that's how Mutas would win here. If you just break his economy down and just trade and trade and trade, and eventually the guy with no economy can't trade anymore. Which is exactly what what exactly Reynor's trying to go for. He keeps trying to trade up until it gets to a point where it's like, this is going to be a bad trade now. And he even killed a lot of the queens with the Lings, which is amazing. The queens overextended to try and save the Corruptor, and then they got overpowered by the Zergling. So that's you know, it's only natural to help defend your Corruptor with your queen, but it's a great read by Reynor to go, okay, he's overextending, let's overpower that with my other army that will crap on the queens now. And this is exactly what he wants to do. He wants to find open situations where the Mutas are going to overpower the Corruptor. This is actually something I don't agree with. This is the first thing I've seen this whole game that I don't agree with what Serral did. I don't think he should be getting weapon upgrades. 100% I think he should be getting Carapace. Because the Carapace upgrade, like I said before, it's going to help with the bounce. It's going to make both bounces always do 0.5 damage, basically. But what it's also going to do is it's going to reduce the initial hit of the Muta. But your Corruptors should never really be on just like a move. Because if they're on a move and you're spreading out your DPS against Muta, it's double negative. Because if you're spreading out your DPS against Muta, you're allowing the Muta to have more benefit of regeneration. Because a Corruptor regenerates 1 hit point maybe like every 3 seconds. And a Muta regenerates 1 hit point like every second. So allowing your Corruptors to spread out the DPS is a buff for the Muta. So you definitely want to focus fire, right? You want to get rid of the Muta quickly. For number one, because you can get rid of some of the damage that way faster. But you can also then get rid of the regen. And you're not allowing your Corruptors to have a longer fight, which the Mutas win in the end on. So, yeah, I think a weapon upgrade here is not needed because you'd have overkill if you were focus firing. And the only reason why Reynor pulls back there is because he's worried about the roaches now getting into his base. I agree with it. I agree with the pullback. This is basically an all-in now. Ever since that move where he got into the base, he pulled him out of position, and he repeatedly denied this base. It got to that point where that last time it got denied, this base either needed to go up or Serral's going to lose the game. Because the economy for Serral is running pretty dry at this point. It's kind of running out, guys. He's got one base that's still got full saturation capabilities here, which is also about to start running away. It's got one patch with like 100 on it. Like, this base is almost out. And we got Reynor over here with like some fresh... He's even actually transferred drones from his natural to a different base. The forward base over here. Because he wants to... Like, that's actually pretty smart. Because if this base is harder to defend. And if somehow Reynor loses map control and goes, you know what? Evacuate this base. I can't defend it anymore. It's going to die. And let's say he can't ever retake it. He now can mine this base longer. He's mining the more hard to defend bases first while he has map control. And then if he ever loses map control later, he can fall back to the easier to defend bases later on. This is something that like you do if you're ever worried about the game going to like a stalemate situation. Because it's a lot harder to defend the middle of the map than it is to defend the back. I don't really think he needed to do it, but I don't disagree with it. It's pretty smart. But it's not super necessary. You don't have to always do it. But yeah, interesting ideas. It kind of shows you the kind of player he is. He's the kind of player that thinks about the end game while playing the early game. But yeah, the situation right now is Serral doesn't have enough Corruptors to fight off the Mutas. His roaches are committed deep in enemy territory now because if he just sits there and continues to be defensive the entire time, he's gonna lose anyways because he's getting starved out. His defense wasn't as good as it could have been. He fucked up pretty hard right there in the natural earlier. And now he's just kind of throwing a Hail Mary being like, maybe I'll get in here and kill your shit. But I think he knows it. I think he knows he's pretty dead. And he's just like seeing how dead he is. I don't think he really had a lot of confidence in this push. It's just a what-if situation. Maybe Reynor had a heart attack while he was playing this game and he didn't merely macro for the last 2 minutes. Because he's dead. And the other reason why I would think like Serral probably knows he's like I'm pretty dead now, is because he's in a situation where he's pushing into melee upgraded Zerglings with weapon upgraded Mutas, and he has not only does he have no way to deal with the Mutas really because there's not enough Corruptors to fight back, but he also doesn't have any Carapace upgrades on his ground army, which means his roaches are gonna just pop left and right so fast. If you don't have Carapace upgrades against weapon upgraded Ling Muta, your units die insanely fast. So these roaches are never really gonna even have a chance to like get into the economy and kill drones. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Serral knew he was fucked. But he just wanted to take a gamble just to be like, because it's in a really important game, right? You don't want to just GG Be like, maybe my opponent made some mistakes. We'll just find out. And obviously Reynor didn't, so this army just gets completely dumpstered. And yeah, both players I feel like recognize their situations. I think the only thing that could have been different about this game that didn't have to be the same way was I do not think that Serral had to go for Aspire. I don't think a Corruptor build with roaches was required. It's not like it can't work. I'm not saying it's a bad choice. It is a viable one, but it's not what he had to do. This is not the only choice you have. Also, I do not think that against a very well-rounded multitasking Zerg, I do not think that this is the best choice either. But you know, I mean, Serral's insane. I won't really question him. I'm sure he's done this before, and he's normally in most games he probably has like insane defense, and he doesn't let things happen like Lings flooding through the natural on an average game, and then suddenly he does this push where he's the one who has this like death ball looking army, and the Muta Lingzerg can't really defend it. I could totally see that happening, because if let's say Serral has like Corruptor Roach and he goes into like Viper against Muta or something like that, that becomes like almost impossible for the Mutas to win at that point. It's so bad for the Muta. But I honestly, as a Zerg player myself, I actually prefer other avenues to deal with the Muta Lingzerg, like maybe going for Lurker, Infestor, Viper, Hydra, more that kind of a style. I'm not the biggest fan of going Corruptor, but this is something that not a lot of Zergs do, and maybe not a lot of Zergs are really comfortable with. But judging off of just how both players kind of read how what they built, how they upgraded, and what they did, I feel like both players are really well versed in this kind of a situation. The only thing I disagree with is the fact that Serral got +1 weapons. I don't think he should have done that. I think he should have got level 2 Carapace, because it would have increased his chances of beating the Mutas. But I don't. Overall, in the end, none of it really mattered. Anyway, like if he got level 1 weapon Carapace or level 2 armor altogether, it didn't ultimately matter because his natural broke. He got kind of fucked over too hard. The 4th got denied too many times. And regardless of upgrades, he was pretty screwed at that point because of that. But yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys understood some stuff you may or may not have already known. Maybe you learned something. And thank you very much for watching another replay analysis by me, ViBE. And again, this was game 2 of WCS. The finals with Serral and Reynor. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Peace.